So you've sleeved your copy of Food Chain Magnate Deluxe Edition and you want to know the best way to store those cards, or maybe you just want to know where the drive-in tokens go. This is Food Chain Magnate Deluxe Edition Reboxing version 2 Electric Boogaloo. Stay tuned. So you're probably here for one of two reasons. One, to find out where the drive-in tokens go. Your deluxe edition arrived without the drive-in tokens. You now want to know where those go because we did not realise they were not included when Play the Game HQ made their reboxing video. Alternatively, you're here because you've sleeved your cards, which I'll put a timestamp in the video for so you know exactly where to go. So you can fast forward and get right to the point of where to put sleeved cards. So anyway, let's start off with just reboxing it. Let's assume you've taken everything out of the box. I'm just going to go through it one by one and show you where things go. I'll put a timestamp right now where you can skip straight to putting the drive-in tokens back in the box. But I may as well, while I'm here, cover everything in one go. So this is layer one, essentially. What we have here are the module milestone boards. We have the remove after turn 2 and turn 3 tokens here. We have the milestone module cards here that you slot into this board. We have the turn order tokens, and we have the marketeer busy tokens, if you like. Here we've got the coffee shops, and here we've got the restaurants. All of this is like layer one, as it were. Here we've got a bucket full of the milestone tracker tokens. Here, I'm going to lift these up and try not to make a mess. We've got a series of small square tiles. All of those will go in this hole here. None of this has changed, by the way, since the Play the Game HQ. I will get to the changes in a sec. Here we've got the house garden combos. These slot into this deep well here. Okay, here's where things will differ slightly from the Play the Game HQ video regarding drive-in tokens. So, we have, now I'm going to drop them and make a mess. We have a series of, let's call these 1x2 tokens. This includes the airplanes, this includes gardens, and a couple of road tokens as well. So what you will do with these is essentially split the stack in half and put them long ways into this well here. I think I just fudged the splitting that in half. You don't need to ram those in. Those will stand up lengthways and they're still easy enough to be picked out. So previously those went in here, and what you'll now put in there is these drive-in tokens on their side. All of those will fit in there, as you can hopefully see on the camera. So we've got this section down here. Actually, there is one thing that has remained unchanged. The bills will go in there. And there's this kind of slot to the right-hand side, and that is where you'll put these, we'll call these 2x2 square tokens. The mailboxes and gourmet critics will slot just down the side. This section here, we've got to play a little bit of Tetris for, so I'll cue the music in the edit. We've got a series of small, narrow tokens. There's the freeway tokens and a billboard. Those slot at the very bottom. You then have some slightly longer road tokens and a garden token. Those slot on top of that. You've got the 4 rural billboards, and they will slot on top of there. And now we go on to these tokens here. We've got a couple of airplanes and the billboard. They'll slot on top of there. And then we've got these 2 long airplane tokens, these huge ones, which will slot on top of there. Finally, with the pieces we've got left, we're going to play the boss level of Tetris, if you like, because we have to put this T-shaped garden in the middle. I've just noticed there's a hair there. That's grim. We've got a T-shaped garden, and we've got 2 road tokens, and then we've got 2 L-shaped gardens, which will fit on top. That is the absolute optimum way to do this section here, and that is essentially layer 1 done. I mean, that's not really layer 1, but you get what I'm getting at. Slot the fridge tokens on top of the milestone cards, and then on top of all of that, you can slide these milestone boards. You can put the turn order tracker on top of the restaurant and coffee shop tokens, and at that point, you can slot on, and here we go, here's the tricky part, this kind of tray lid section here. Now, someone helpfully pointed out, or a couple of people helpfully pointed out in the previous reboxing we did, there's this lovely indent on the top of this tray section here, which is where you'll put these expansion milestone boards. They slot perfectly onto there. There's another indent at this side of the box, and that is where you'll put the menus. And then you're ready to start stacking things up a little more. I don't know why I've stacked them in this order when I need the yellow one first. The yellow employee tray then goes on top of those. And finally, you can stack in the 2 blue trays at the top of the box. And last but not least, of course, We've got the rule books. Whoop. And the lid. There we go. That is reboxing done, assuming you've not got sleeve cards. I timestamped it. Hopefully you didn't waste too much time if you were just looking for the drive-in tokens. Obviously, if you're now looking for the sleeve version, I'll get onto that. And thanks for bearing with me if you just sat through that when it wasn't relevant to you. Okay, whoosh, edit. Okay, reset. What we've got here is another unboxed, if you like, Deluxe Edition, but this time we're framing it all around sleeved cards. So, disclaimer, for this, I am using, or I have used, Mayday Games Standard USA Premium Sleeves. These are 90 microns. It doesn't actually say on the pack, but those are 90 microns, which will give you some sense of comparison. You might go through this and say, well, I didn't have any problems with that because you used a lower micron sleeve, or perhaps you've used a higher one, in which case you might have to make a few small adjustments, but this is what I'm doing. And obviously I totally understand a lot of you will want to use premium sleeves for this kind of game, which is why I've used premium sleeves to go with the kind of extreme end of the scale. So with that in mind, let's quickly recap where we are right now. We've got these milestone module boards here, the turn 2, turn 3 tokens here, milestone module cards here, player turn tracker tokens here, busy marketeer tokens here. We've got the restaurants, we've got the coffee shops, we've got the milestone tracker tokens here. We've got the garden house combos all in here. In this section, we've got all of the kind of 1x1 small square tokens, roadworks, radios, towers, etc. In this section here, we've got all of the, we'll call them 1x2 tokens. That includes the gardens and a couple of other things. And in this section here, we've got the drive-in tokens. All of those fit in there. So, with the exception of a few things from here on out, we've got a few small changes to make because we have the sleeved cards. And I'll just put the fridges down real quick. Let's start by talking more about the employee tray. I'm just going to whip the lid off. So I have managed to fit in here everything with the exception of the management trainee cards, the CEO cards, and the bank reserve cards. Don't know if you can see there, they are all sleeved. And yes, there is some lift. Is it the prettiest solution? No, it isn't. I appreciate that. But this is the best solution I've found to keep things safe and also not spilling out around the box. So those fit in there with this lid. You'll notice I have not got the kind of slotted insert, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But that lid goes on. Don't know if you just heard that click. It's not as though it's floating. That is on securely. I'm making a mess of showing that off on camera. And if I give it a shake, yes, there is some movement, but they do stay together relatively in stacks. Again, I know it's not perfect, and I apologise, but this is the best solution that I have found, and probably recommend you follow it. So let's just carry on where we left off. This doesn't change. We can slot those milestone boards right in there, and we can slot in this section actually. I just deliberately left it uncovered in case you've tuned right in at this point and want to know where everything goes. We've got these freeway tokens that go at the very bottom of this stack. We then have some slightly longer road and garden tokens, which will slot on top of that. Again, we should have the Tetris theme playing in the background. Maybe I'll put that in an edit if I don't fear the copyright overlords. We've got the rural billboards in there. And then we have the airplane and single billboard, which slot in that gap there. We have two bigger airplane tokens, which slot on the top. And then Tetris final boss. We have a road, T-shaped garden, and another road. And then we have the two L-shaped garden tokens, or park tokens, I should say. That is where all of that goes. That is the most optimum way of stacking it. That is 100% the way you should be doing it. So, here's where things are going to differ slightly, because normally we would put the bills in this section down here. But what I'm going to do is put the bank reserve cards, all of those there from the base game and catch-up expansion, on their side in that slot there. That is a perfectly good slot for that. It's not as though you're having to cram them in. And on the right-hand side, where's that? There's that little gap. You're going to slot the square gourmet tokens and mailbox tokens. Can we see that all right on camera? I think that looks okay. All right, whereabouts are we now? So let's just slot that in there real quick, my bad. We've got the CEO cards now left over, as well as the management trainee cards. Again, all of those in one stack, no camera trickery here. I'm going to slot those in this corner over here on top of the milestone tracker tokens. Yes, there is some lift. Perhaps if you've got a lower micron, you might be able to put those down a little bit more. There is some lift, but you'll see in a second why that's not too big of a problem. Because on top of that, you're going to put the map tile insert tray bit, very technical terms there. Whoops, I made a mess of that. We've got the map tiles, of course, and someone pointed out on the previous reboxing, there's a lovely indent here for the expansion milestone cards. And they're right, they absolutely go perfectly well there. On top of that, you're going to put the two employee insert organizers, that's the word, just on top of that. And on top of that, you can then put the employee tray. Finally, we're going to put in these two here. And you might be noticing, Ben, you've got these bills on the table here. When are you going to put those in? That is, we're coming to that. If I just take the lid off of this real quick, the best way to store the money that I've found is actually relatively simple. There's a slot for the bills there. If we split them by denomination, there's a slot there. And the 5, sorry, I can count, I can do numbers. And then you'll have one stack of bills just across there. And again, if I then put the lid on, note that it's got 2 rounded corners and 2 not rounded corners. I give it a shake. They don't move at all. Okay, they do, but they don't come out of their stacks, and we can slot that in there. Finally, we've got, I know where I've gone wrong. Ignore me, you saw nothing. I know what I've missed because I've put them on a chair over here out of my line of sight. Menus. The menus go in here, which you can then put the food items on top of that. And last but not least, the rule books. And that is everything, apart from the lid. What did I do? Whoop. I never said I was perfect. Okay, that, in my eyes, is the best way of storing everything. You're not having to put anything underneath the insert, because then, to me, that defeats the point of having an insert. And, you know, I don't know how well you can see this. There's no lift on the box. That's as shut as it would be normally. So that's not going to come out. And if I give it a shake, you've seen me shaking around the employee tray. There is going to be some movement. I appreciate that. But the way that it's organised in there with the ketchup, I don't know why I'm pointing to the box as though you can see what I'm X-ray vision. But the slots for the ketchup and the slots for the base game. And then obviously you've got the CEOs, management trainees, and bank reserve cards deeper in the box. But you will need to obviously organise the cards every time you play anyway. So, thank you for bearing with me, thank you for bearing with us, thanks for your patience. I'll be there in the comments if you have any questions. Message me here, message me on BGG, message me on the GameFound campaign page. I'm monitoring all of those. Any questions or concerns, let me know. Obviously, if you've got thicker Micron cards, I'd love to hear your thoughts on where you can fit everything. And equally, if you've got standard, as it were, quality sleeves, you may well have a separate experience. But I've deliberately chose premium for this video so you could see where we were at. But thank you so much for bearing with me, guys. Happy dining. Hope you enjoy Food Chain Magnate. I don't know how far I can lean under the camera. Not quite far enough. I have a cat on my back. Totally lost my train of thought.